Welcome to this session on innovation. Last week we dug into strategy development, and one of the aspects of strategy development that we talked about was the need to have unique value. And so of course everybody would say, absolutely, I want my company to be unique, I want my product to be unique, or my service to be unique. And so it begs the question, well, how do you come up with a unique business model? And it's kind of tricky sometimes because there are a lot of competitors out there. And so we're going to give you some real practical ways to come up with an innovative business model, product, or service design. And we use the metaphor of a light bulb. And the reason we use that is because a light bulb was an amazingly innovative idea when Thomas Edison came up with it. And it took him a lot of tries to come up with it, and some say it was over 2,000 times. And people would ask him, how does it feel to have failed so many times? And he says, I have not failed. I have successfully found 2,000 ways that a light bulb will not work. And so I think Thomas Edison's attitude, his perseverance, his discipline are great examples for all of us as we're seeking to go start businesses and run those businesses. And so we're going to use each of the rays on a light bulb, the light that comes out, to illustrate some things to think about when it comes to innovation. And the first thing it starts with is perception, or being perceptive. And so a great business person is perceptive. Great business people see opportunities that other people do not see. And so innovation starts with waking up your eyes, your ears, and all your senses to the things that are going on around you. And so where do you look? What should you be perceptive about? The first thing would be people, obviously. All kinds of people are circling around you day in and day out. And so take time to observe what's going on in their lives and potentially spot a need or a pain. So we talk about need or pain or a problem. What is a need that some of the people around you have? It could be your family members, it could be yourself, it could be neighbors, it could be friends, it could be tourists, different people that you see coming through your region. And so what is a need or a pain that they have? The other area to look is at organizations. And so there are all kinds of organizations. There are companies you could observe and see what are some needs that companies in my area have. It could be government agencies, it could be nonprofit organizations or NGOs, it could be associations, it could be schools. So there are all kinds of organizations that you can be perceptive and identify pains or needs that those organizations have. Another thing to observe are trends. You can see what are trends that are happening in your area. Maybe fuel costs are going up. How does that impact your industry? Maybe you look in other industries. And so if you're in the food industry, you might look at the transportation industry and say, what are trends that are happening in the transportation industry that could affect my industry later? Maybe we'll run on a parallel path and some of those trends will start happening in my industry. Or maybe you look in a different geography. Something is happening in another country in the world. You look at India, or you look at China, or the United States, or countries in Europe, or in Africa if you're in South America, and see what's going on in these different countries, and is there something that's happening there that might come to my area or I could bring to my country. And so trends is a great way to identify innovative things that you can do. Now all of these things really look out. So you're looking out at the world, you're looking out at people and organizations and things that are going on around the world. And that's a great way to come up with innovative business models. Another way is by looking within, and that's intuition. So intuition is that gut instinct, that little voice in your head that says, I think there's something there. And if you look back in history, there are many companies that it was intuition that drove them. Many years ago, Sony did that with the development of Walkman, devices. And then Apple, more in modern days, they've done that, with iPads and iPhones and all of those types of things. And so intuition can be a great source of innovation. And then lastly, there are innovation models. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And so there are many creative and structured ways to generate innovative ideas. And the one we're going to go over is called Scamper. But if you don't use Scamper, you can use anything. Get a group of diverse people into a room and go through a brainstorming session and think about different people groups and different organizations and what are problems that they have, and get a whiteboard or a chalkboard or sticky notes or pad of paper and scribble out ideas, and you'll be amazed at the ideas that'll come up when you bring a group of people together. We will dig into this innovation model called Scamper, and it's just a very easy way to think through ways that you can come up with innovative products or services. And so each of the letters in Scamper stand for a method that you can use. And the first, the S, stands for substitute. And so substitute is all about, is there some aspect, some element within a product or a service that you could substitute something else that would make it different or better or unique. And a great example of that is in Ghana, they don't have a lot of access to metals, to iron and steel and those types of things, but they have great access to bamboo. So somebody said, wow, what could we use that bamboo for? And bicycles is a huge need in countries like Ghana. And so they built bicycle frames using bamboo instead of steel. And so that's a great way to substitute one material for another, in this case for a product. And so there are many other great examples. The C stands for combine. What are two things that we could combine together that if we brought product A and product B together, it would make this new product C that's even better and more unique? And so years ago in the United States, gas companies did that, fuel companies. And so you used to drive to a gas station and fill up your car with fuel, and then you drive down the street to a convenience store to get a soda or a drink or a snack or something. And somebody came up with the idea, well, let's just combine and put the convenience store at the gas station. That was a great idea. Another great idea is smartphones. So smartphones are becoming prevalent all over the world. And so a smartphone, they put a telephone together, they put internet access, calendar, weather. They've combined so many things, camera, so many things into a smartphone, you can't even count how many things are in a smartphone. And so that's a great example of innovation through combining things. A in the Scamper model stands for adapt. And so it's the idea of taking something and adapting it to use it for something else. One company came up with a way of taking a backpack and adapting it to become effectively a large water bottle. They filled it with a plastic bag that has a tube coming out so you can ride your bike or go hiking and be able to drink and have a whole backpack full of water. That makes it easier. You don't have to carry it in your hand, you don't have to carry it on your waist. So they adapted a backpack, turned it into a water bottle effectively. M stands for modify or magnify. So how can you magnify one attribute within your product and really make it a more significant part of your product? One motorcycle company, Harley Davidson, did that, and they totally magnified the sound of the motorcycle, so it has this loud roar and rumble, and it's a distinctive sound that everybody knows when a Harley's coming, and that's something that sets their motorcycles apart and their company apart. The next area is put to another use. Put to other use. In some developing countries that don't have electricity, light within their homes can be a problem. So what one company did is they took water bottles, just plain plastic water bottles, cut holes in the ceiling of their homes and slipped the water bottles in with some water. And when light hits the water bottles outside, then it shines light into the home. And so even if you have a small tin roof home, even a thatched roof home, you can use these water bottles and capture the light that gets driven through the water and into the house to light the house. And so it's really a pretty unique and interesting approach. Eliminate means, is there a way that you can eliminate things from your product or service? That most companies provide these 5 or these 7 things within their product or service, and you look at it and just say, I'm going to eliminate all of this stuff and really only scale it back to just the simplest of simple. And an example of that would be Swatch. There's a watch company called Swatch, and they took away all the frills. And so normally a watch would be something that's metal, it's pretty expensive to buy, it's something you keep for a long time. And what Swatch did is they stripped it all down. They made it a plastic watch and took away all the frilly stuff, but what they added was just a design element. And so they made the cost of the watch so cheap by making it plastic and stripping away all the expensive components within it. And it became a decoration almost, you know, an accessory that people would wear. And so you might buy multiple Swatch watches because you'd have a blue one when you wore your blue clothes, you'd have a red one when you wore your red clothes, that type of thing. And so by stripping it down, they came up with a whole unique approach to watches. And then the last area is rearrange. And so is there a way you can look at your business model and rearrange what everybody else is doing? And so a great example of that is Domino's Pizza. In the past, the only way you could get pizza was you would drive to the pizza restaurant, you would sit down and you would eat pizza. And somebody, I think his name was Tom Monaghan, came up with an innovative way to say, let's don't make the people come to the pizza, let's bring the pizza to the people. And so that is where home delivery of pizza was birthed, is Domino's came up with a way, let's cook the pizzas and then deliver them to their house. And so a great example of how you can rearrange the business model. If things normally go A, B, C, D, go C, D, B, A. And so that's a great way to come up with an innovative business. And so this is the Scamper model. Substitute. You know, substituting one thing for another. Combine is putting 2 things together. Adapt is taking one thing and using it for another purpose. Magnify is taking one attribute of your product or service and really blowing it up. Put to another use is coming up with a way that you can use something in a different way to solve a different problem. And then eliminating are there things that you can strip out of your product or service to ultimately make it unique. And then rearrange, is there a way you can do it totally differently, different process, different order, totally different way of thinking to make your solutions stand out relative to competitors. So again, innovation is at the heart of coming up with a unique business model. Use some of these tools, it'll help you.